What the heck just happened? Where'd my camera go? Much better. That was weird. Guys, I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz Today. This is a little Arturo Fuente action right there. Redistricting needs to happen. And where I live in Indiana, this has become a life of its own kind of story, with the Republicans saying, nah, and Trump saying, yeah. So there's a fight happening here. We'll also get into what's going on with tariffs, but let's go. So if you want to release the Epstein files, release the Epstein files. You're not going to anger me. You're going to make guys like me outrageously happy who have been calling for the release of the Epstein files the whole time. The real question is, why has President Trump changed his mind? Well, Tony, you see, it's all just a game of 4D chess that the president has been playing with these stupid Democrats, and you fell for it. Whatever anybody needs to tell themselves in order to go to sleep at night. That's not what happened. Tony Katz Today. Good to be with you. Find everything going on at TonyKatz.com, live streaming on the YouTubes, on Twitter X, on Facebook, Tony Katz Radio on Facebook, Tony Katz on Twitter X, and of course, Tony Katz, YouTube.com/Tony Katz on the YouTubes. It wasn't 4D chess. That just isn't real. Just wasn't. The president made a mistake. That is all. That is all it is. And now he seems to be correcting course with conversations that include, we need investigations of Democrats who are in the Epstein files. Now, fine by me. I want to know what's in the files, and I want to know who was on the island. Of course, Jeffrey Epstein, do we call him financier or do we call him low-life child molesting scumbag? I'm going to go with the latter. Guys. He had the island, and people flew to the island of all different types, and people flew on his plane, and people knew him and connected to him because he had a tremendous amount of money and he traveled in the circles. He had this woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, who's in jail right now, and she procured young women for him and his friends. That's what happened. Don't tell me it's nothing, as President Trump did. Hey, this isn't a big deal. If it wasn't a big deal, why is Ghislaine Maxwell in jail? It clearly was a big deal. And if it was a big deal, why didn't we hear anything about this when Joe Biden was president? Now the files need to be released, according to Democrats, because, well, Trump's in them and he's a pedophile. And if you want to play politics with the lives of children, those people are more than welcome to. Those are the scummiest people on planet Earth, and I have no place for them in my life or in my heart or in my soul. I don't care what actually happens to them. But it is clear that the Democratic Party is only and solely interested in playing politics with this. Everywhere you go, Trump's hiding because Trump's in the Epstein files. My God, everybody's in the Epstein files. Everybody knows they knew each other, and for a while they were friends. And then Trump threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. You decided because they knew each other, you could call the president a pedophile. Well, when you're of low rent, of low mind, when you are a pseudo-intellectual, and when kids don't matter to you, but power does, well, look at what you'll do. Oh, by the way, we should be clear. Power matters. Power matters greatly. But you want power so bad, you're willing to let children be abused and not look into it? My God. I can't imagine all the places there are in hell for those people. So Trump had said when this was a conversation that this wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big deal at all. It didn't matter. We're not focusing on the things that are important. And there are people on the political right who said, yeah, that's right. And we shouldn't be paying attention to this because Trump doesn't want us to pay attention to this. Those people were wrong. and their fellow radio hosts and their fellow writers and commentators and influencers and all that jazz, and they were just wrong. And they were wrong because what they did is took their marching orders and not said, what is it that matters? Of course it matters. Who was involved with abusing children? Doesn't matter their political party. Doesn't matter their title. Doesn't matter the amount of money they have. Doesn't matter whose daddy they are or who is their dad. What matters is if they were abusing children, they go to jail. You would think that this would be the one subject that we as Americans could somehow get behind, all of us. Nope, we screwed this one up too. We had to be political about something that is just so rational. President Trump's take on this of why are we paying attention to this was wrong. It was a very rare bad political instinct from President Trump. I know some people are going to get angry with me for saying so, but that makes no difference. It's still true. He was just wrong. That's all. He wasn't, as I see it, trying to protect himself. He knows that anything involving Jeffrey Epstein is somehow going to bring him up, but it's going to bring up a lot of people. I bet you didn't know that it was going to bring up Plaskett. And you're like, Tony, I'm sorry, did you just say Plaskett? Oh, yes. I'm talking about Delegate Stacey Plaskett. She is from the U.S. Virgin Islands. Is she in the Epstein files? I don't know. You know what I do know? As the reporting comes to the New York Post via the Washington Post, Delegate Stacey Plaskett, during a 2019 House Oversight Committee hearing, where Michael Cohen, remember the former fixer for Trump, he was testifying this about Stormy Daniels. She is getting notes on her phone. She's getting messages on her phone as this is happening. Who are the messages from? Jeffrey Epstein. The representative, the delegate, because it's U.S. Virgin Islands, not a state. The delegate, who is a Democrat, was getting messages in real time from child abuser Jeffrey Epstein. Tell me more, Democrats, about how upset you are about all this, about how ugly Jeffrey Epstein is and anybody connected to him. She was getting texts as it was happening to try and help her guide the questioning. If you're texting with Jeffrey Epstein in 2019, there's no level of low that is low enough. And as far as I'm concerned, she's got to go. There are a couple of people who got to be removed from the House. I do not know what Speaker Johnson is waiting on. Jeffrey Epstein? You're getting your questions from him? This is just one of many, many stories regarding Jeffrey Epstein. For example, this is the story about Larry Summers. Larry Summers was part of the Clinton years. And Larry Summers had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein up until his death. And according to flight logs, as reported by the New York Post, he was on the jet 4 times, including a flight in 2005 to the capital of St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Okay. Now the question is, what did you do with children? If you were on the island, I want answers to the questions. These are the only things that matter. What, Larry Summers is somehow immune because he's a Democrat? Screw him. And all of those who want to somehow defend him. We can't be those people. We cannot be those people. But the question is, why is it now that Donald Trump is saying, we need more Epstein documents. We need to make this happen. We need to show everything writing. This is another Russia scam with all arrows pointing to the Democrats. He put this out on Truth Social. Records show that these men and many others spent large portions of their life with Epstein on his island. Stay tuned. Now, I am a believer that we should release everything possible. Ed Morrissey, who is a regular guest on this show, made a good observation, and one that you would agree with, that there are people listed in these files that have done absolutely nothing wrong. And if you start sharing names, they're now guilty by association, even if they did nothing wrong. Where do they go for a redress? You've basically said you're connected to Jeffrey Epstein. You basically told these people that they are, guilty of some level of very obscene impropriety. Where do they go with their very, very real grievance? You can't just name every name. Some people did absolutely nothing wrong. So we're clear. And we know this to be true, and that includes Republicans and that includes Democrats. But I want to release everything that can be released. Every name that can be released. Of course we should. And if you think that this is the president playing 4D chess, you're more than welcome to. But that's a level of idol worship that I don't play in. The president is not a fool. But he is human, to the shock of some. And he does make mistakes from time to time. Screaming that the Epstein files didn't matter, that Epstein didn't matter, that it was all a distraction, that it was a hoax, was a mistake. And I would like to see all those people who scream that it's a hoax admit that that tact was the wrong tact. And then I want them to turn to the Democratic Party and say, okay, here it is. Now, what are we going to do about Larry Summers, and what are we going to do about Delegate Plaskett? Epstein is the most horrible human being to have ever lived. We might very well agree with that. And Delegate Plaskett, who knew he was horrible then, was getting text messages from him so she could go after Trump. So, Epstein's terrible unless he can help you get Trump, in which case he's fine. That's one hell of a standard, political left. I am tired of having to direct the band here when they can't even figure out how to pick up their instruments. Do you not know how to move this story? This was the move that should have happened months ago. But we're here. We're here now with a very, very interesting conversation ahead of us. What will the Republicans do? We can ask how the Democrats will react. They won't even care. Democrats are mentioned, they'll say, oh, no, that's fine. But you see, Trump, we know what they're going to do. It has to be understood that you're not having this conversation for Republicans who are hardened in or Democrats who are all hardened in. You're having this conversation for America about these elite, powerful people who thought it was okay to abuse children and thought they could get away with it. Well, we don't let people get away with it in the United States of America. We actually believe in law and order. And at that moment, they can then ask themselves, well, which is the party that actually believes in law and order? Ta-da! It's a really rare moment when you could do the right thing and win politically. That is a twofer right there. That is a win-win. And I would like for them to go win. That would be great. President Trump has now allowed for the opening of this, to which the Republicans... Now, I only hope he coordinated with Republicans. They didn't somehow... They had a plan and they didn't message each other. That's always possible. Let it loose, guys. Some names indeed have to be protected. Absolutely. Some people are innocent. There are going to be children's names, and there are a whole bunch of things. Victims, I don't want them being named. They deserve their privacy. They have rights. But it's time to know who did what. And some people have to go to jail. We have a two-tiered system or we don't. I'm going to vote for we don't. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. So some of you may have noticed. First of all, it's good to be here, guys. It's good to be back. Mike Coolidge was in for me on Friday. I appreciate him as always. Some of you may have noticed that we now stream in two different ways. And you may have also noticed that the people in the mobile stream leave some of the ugliest comments you have ever seen in the history of ever. It's crazy. Crazy. What we also have noticed is that for whatever reason, the viewership in the mobile stream is astronomical comparatively. We've always had a slow build. We've always known this about ourselves. Things are growing. I'm pleased. But it's crazy. It's crazy, the viewership on the mobile. I guess people are just scrolling through and, there's Tony, and that's that. But yes, the comments are nutty. I'm selling YouTube with you on TV as well. We don't see tons of trolls. You're all fair. Thank you, Jack. So wait, you've got the show up on your TV. You're casting it? That's awesome. How do I look? Tell me thin. He didn't tell me thin, Landon. I think he's laughing. That's just remarkably rude. Good gosh. All right, let's go. In a very not much talked about story, the Iranians seized an oil tanker in the Straits of Hormuz, which, well, matters greatly. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Find everything over at TonyKatz.com. If you've never looked at it, you never looked at a map of the Straits of Hormuz, it's pretty important stuff. The Straits of Hormuz is this landmass, this area between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. And it is this little hump here that all these tankers have to go through after getting oil from there's the UAE and there's Saudi Arabia and all these places. Well, Iran, which sits to the north, they have a very good look at all these tankers that go over this little hump. And they recently took one. This was a tanker that was flagged to the Marshall Islands. They say it was an illegal consignment. They listen, it's the Iranians. They make it up. They have themselves a disaster in the making. The sanctions are still on them. They got the Ayatollah was humiliated by the United States with the attack on the nuclear sites of Fordow and Isfahan and Natanz. They don't have the money. They don't have the resources. They're further and further isolated. And here is nation after nation after nation saying, you know what? We want in on the Gaza rebuild. And okay, we'll sign the Abraham Accords. And, we forget these Iranians. They're a bunch of nut jobs anyway. That Ayatollah, he doesn't properly, wash the beard. And woo-wee. Well, I'm assuming some of them have said such a thing. That's destroying the Iranians. And remember, the people who are Iranian, they're Persian, good people who we want to be in business with. We want to trade with. We want to engage in tourism, the whole thing. You just can't do it when you're run by Islamists. No nation run by Islamists is a place where one can go vacation. So now it's a question of what happens next. What does happen next now that Iran has done that? U.S. Central Command forces acknowledging the incident and saying IRGC operatives, that's the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, but really the Iranian, then steered the tanker in Iran's territorial waters where the ship remains. Iran's use of military forces to conduct an armed boarding and seizure of a commercial vessel in international waters constitutes a blatant violation of international law, undermining freedom of navigation and the free flow of commerce. The question is, what do these other nations do now? If there's anything about the deal, the peace deal, the Hamas returning the hostages deal that should be really still thought about, is that Trump allowed them to make money. That's the difference. Here, you're going to invest in Gaza's future and you're going to get a little something on the side. None of them have really had that option before. Don't get me wrong, they make money. But this is a different option. This is an option to make money without having to constantly worry about whether or not that money is going to get, taken away. They like that idea. And here are these Iranians still in the way. Guys, we're so out of your backwards mentality. We're moving on over here. We're not living in the dark ages. We're done with that. We've been making money. We're going to make this deal. Yeah, I know. We hate the Israelis. We hate the Jews, blah, 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 blah. But you know what? No one's going to be bombing us. We ain't getting hit with no pagers. We'll just keep it to ourselves and move about our business, which is sometimes all you can ask for in the world. So how do they respond to a threat to their financial futures? Iran hasn't had to contend with that before. Let's hope they do now. This is Tony Katz Today. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. Yes, so can I ask, for those of you who are watching it side by side, where are you watching it side by side? If I go to YouTube, it shows up as two separate streams. How do you do that? I'm curious. There we go. Do I have to bring up Marjorie Taylor Greene? Oh, you're doing it in two tabs. Okay, guys, I got it now. I got what you're doing. There it is. Please tell me I don't have to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think I'm the only person who doesn't care about this story. I don't want her threatened. I don't want anybody threatened. It's like this state senator in Indiana who hasn't even come out to say whether he would redistrict or not, and he got swatted last night. Now, I am very clear. Until they tell me who did this, it's Schrodinger's cat. It was a Republican or it was a Democrat. I don't know. It was Schrodinger's. Either way, there's a cat in a box. You don't know if it's alive or dead. That's Schrodinger's cat or is it Schrodinger's? Anyway, that's the story here. I want to know who did this. Everyone's going to make an assumption. Well, Trump went after the state senator, so therefore that led to the swatting. What if it was done by a Democratic operative? I'm not saying it was. I'm asking the question, what if? Wouldn't you wait for the investigation to be complete before making such a statement about who did this? No, they don't wait. Absolutely awful people. Awful. You know what else is weird about today? The shutdown is over. And there's no more press conferences from Mike Johnson. So it sounds like, okay. I've gotten so used to that routine, it's not there anymore. It's like, what do you know? All right, I will do Marjorie Taylor Greene. Wait, that sounded terrible. I will discuss the situation with the congresswoman from Georgia. Better? Better. That's all there is. All right, let me get this, and let me get this, and let me get this, and then I'll get to some of the Marjorie Taylor Greene stuff. Yep. And I think I have some Marjorie Taylor Greene audio. I do. All right. All right. 30 seconds till we get back. Very, very nice. You got questions? I am here. Glad you guys are here. Throw yourself in the comments and have a chit chat and a jibber jabber. We'll do the whole thing. I had written in a note last week that I do not at all care about a fight between President Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't care. I don't care about Marjorie Taylor Greene. I never have. My entire take, and I've got the audio proof here on this very program, is that there'll be times she votes in a way that I like, and everything else, she's ridiculous. And now she, because she has been a staunch believer in releasing the Epstein files, she has somehow caught the ire of President Trump. They're now on the outs. And it took Donald Trump a couple of times to get to the nickname. First, it was Wacky Marjorie. And I got to admit, Mr. President, that nickname stinks. Tony, did I say hello? I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz Today. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. Yeah, I did. I'm moving on. So Wacky Marjorie was pretty much a crap nickname. On a scale of 1 to 10, can we agree? Can we agree that's maybe a 2? And it's only a 2 because that's what a 2-year-old would call somebody? Then he went to Marjorie Taylor Brown, and you're like, all right, what's happening here? That's because the green, when you lose your mind and you become, like these never Trumpers, it starts to rot. All right, now he's a guy on the open mic night at the Chuckle Hut, just begging for a laugh so he can get off the stage without that many sweat stains. But then he hit it. He hit it out of the park. Bam. He might as well just called his shot. Marjorie Trader Greene. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Seriously, Producer Landon, nothing? A little louder next time for your commander-in-chief. My gosh. Marjorie Trader Greene. Now, why is the question? What possibly are they beefing about, so much so that the president would drop his endorsement of Marjorie Taylor Greene? The president's saying that people have told me that she's upset that I don't return her phone calls anymore, calling her a ranting lunatic, complaining when she should be talking about the administration's achievements. That's a very much, very, very, very much a Donald Trump thing to say. Here you are, you don't like what I'm doing, or you're not doing what I want to do, so I come at you. The president does this. And I got to tell you, it's the most boring part of his game. But Marjorie Taylor Greene hasn't approached things in a way that would engage, has not approached things in a way that could benefit her and grow a valuable conversation. She approached it by going on The View. She approached it by going on The View. And that, of course, is the disqualifying moment. It's not disqualifying to go on The View. If The View invites me, I'm going on The View. It is disqualifying to go on a show like that to engage emotionally as opposed to rationally your position. It is disqualifying for Marjorie Taylor Greene to show up,
what do you think,
as she did on CNN, and state quite ever so clearly that, well, you see,
happened here? Well, Dana, thank you for having me on, and that is true. I stood with President Trump when virtually no one else did. Campaigned all over the country, spent millions of my own dollars helping him get elected.
Stop. Hold on. Producer Landon, correct me if I'm wrong. Did she just say millions of her own dollars? I'm sorry. I know that it was construction, right? She's in construction. She made millions? What exactly am I doing wrong? That's a sobering moment right there. I may have to have more respect for Marjorie Taylor Greene than I thought. Anyway, continue.
And I think that's incredibly important. And I do support him and his administration. And I support them in delivering the campaign promises we made to the American people. His remarks, of course, have been hurtful. However, I have something in my heart that I think is incredibly important for our country, and that is to end the toxic fighting in politics. And this has been going on for years, and it has divided our country, split up friends and families, neighbors, and it's not solving our problems.
You won't get me to disagree that there's a lot of toxicity out there. You won't get me to disagree at all. You went to CNN to have this conversation, to make this proclamation. What was the purpose here? When one has an issue with the president, you address it and you move on with your day. And when he calls you a name, you go, whatever, I got work to do, and so do you. And then it all kind of works itself out. If you don't understand President Trump and his methodologies right now, this is how it goes. I'm not saying I like it. I'm saying it's how it goes. Why would you go on CNN and now you're having a conversation about toxicity? Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, where are you going to take this conversation?
The most hurtful thing he said, which is absolutely untrue, is he called me a traitor. And that is so extremely wrong. And those are the types of words used that can radicalize people against me and put my life in danger.
Now, the president has said her life's not in danger. I don't think anybody's even paying attention to her. People are, without question, nutty. They always have been. Can calling her Marjorie Taylor Greene lead somebody to engage in some kind of action? I have absolutely no idea. Could calling her anything lead to that? I have no idea. Couldn't we say that she already has dealt with levels of threats from the political left for her positioning? I would argue that that's accurate. But what a thing to say after everything said to you or about you by the political left. It's when Trump says, well, Tony, he is president. I got confronted with this today. Don't we have a different standard for the president? I think it's acceptable to argue that we have a different standard for elected officials and how they present, regardless of who the elected official is. Although if you want to put special onus on the president, I'm not going to stop you. But if we have different standards and we have a higher standard for the elected official, voting for a guy who fantasized about killing children in Virginia really does take the wind out of the sails of somehow this is beyond the pale. No one should be threatening Representative Green. That's nuts. No one should be swatting if that's indeed what took place, as one of the commenters stated. No one should be swatting her. Swatting is this, it's ugly. And there needs to be serious jail time for swatting, no matter whom it is against. Swatting is when you call the police and say, hey, something horrible is happening at Marjorie Taylor Greene's house. And no, this violent thing is happening. Oh, she's attacking this person's being attacked. And the police show up ready. They show up absolutely ready to go. But nothing's actually happening. The whole thing was made up. It was a lie. It happened to a state senator in Indiana, and all part of, believed to be part of redistricting. And I will get to that story. If she's been swatted, that is absolutely obscene. For sure. It could be because she's someone who has wanted the release of the Epstein files. And maybe that annoyed President Trump. I guess it's a question of how she was demanding things. Because I've demanded the release of the Epstein files, which now Trump is like, release the files. But this whole thing about this toxicity and calling me a traitor, as Marjorie Taylor Greene said, if that's what puts a mark on me. Wait, are you making the argument that the toxicity is only coming in one direction?
I don't believe that rich, powerful people should be protected if they have done anything wrong.
I don't believe rich, powerful people should be protected either. Not at all. You think it all comes down to the Epstein files? Well, maybe it does. But I think there's a bigger question here, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Why are you going on CNN to have this conversation? Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and the political left went, his skirt was too short. That's what happened. Commentator after commentator on these networks didn't give a damn. And now there's a big concern about Trump and toxicity and how we're speaking, and now she's apologizing about it. I'm sorry. This is not well done and well handled. I'm not saying you should be threatened. You absolutely don't threaten people. It's insane. But you go on CNN to make the argument. CNN's only talking to you because Trump's yelling at you. I'm sorry, Representative Green. We don't know each other. Do you think they like you now? Do you think they're your friends? Do you think they care? Do you actually think for a second this was the proper venue? You know, sometimes it's hard to save people from themselves. It's hard to believe that people can't understand what's happening. But this was not a way to bring people to your side. This was not a way to make your case regarding the president being wrong, which is an acceptable case to make. This was you giving CNN ammunition. And if you think they're going to stop the toxicity or their commentators, well, there is no way to help you at all then. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz. Good to be with you, Tony Katz, today. Let's see. So I have the following. Okay, so there's that right there. Let me see if I can bring this up. Hold on a second. Okay, looks groovy. I have the OJ story, which is kind of nutty because you're like, I can't believe this is still going on, and it is. I have got. I'm gonna get to redistricting. I've got the tariff story and the BBC lawsuit. What am I missing today? Am I missing any stories today, guys? Let me know. I also have a couple other clips to get to. Oh, The View is now defending Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And this is the problem. This is the problem. And yes, I'm aware that part of the Marjorie Taylor Greene did not play for the live stream. I fixed it. Done and done and done and done. Did I mention I need to hire a director? We're looking now. Sorry, just reading comments. Okay. I will get into the Senate candidate from Maine, the guy with the Nazi tattoo. And then I've got this right here. Check this out.
Again, so from these items that we all, many of us buy every, at the grocery store, how soon do we expect the prices on those goods now to go down?
I will share that momentarily because we're back in like a minute. You cannot call Marjorie Taylor Greene miffed turncoat gargoyle, if only because it's kind of impossible to say. That is not cool. No. So, okay, Jack, on the boats there, and now the forces that we have in the Caribbean, in this Operation Southern Spear, and how Southcom is and the entire AOR, the area of responsibility, how they're looking at this. I don't think there's anything wrong at all with taking out these drug boats. I think that this movement and declaring them narco-terrorists can be seen as a war action, and Congress is well within their rights to say, you need us to make that happen. You can't do this unilaterally. Sorry, Mike, come over to the landscape and you'll get a better view of my beautifulness. So I do think there's an argument there. Meanwhile, let's get back to the show.
But let me ask you the question I asked again. So the tariffs have been removed from these items that we all, many of us buy every, at the grocery store. How soon do we expect the prices on those goods now to go down?
Right. Well, the prices for those goods weren't necessarily going up just because of tariffs, and so the prices will go down. Well, the prices will go down, of course, but
because the tariffs have been taken off.
Right. Well, because the supply of the goods into the U.S. is going to increase.
But I mean, to state the obvious, I mean, tariffs do raise prices on Americans, despite what the president has said over and over again.
It depends on, so if you look at it, how much has inflation gone up because of tariffs? Everybody was saying we're going to have stagflation because of the tariffs, but in fact, year over year, inflation is down.
Now, the inflation has not gone up the way people said, and there was a very interesting story that Breitbart had regarding this. You see, they did a study from 1870 to 2020, and they were able to show that tariffs on a macro level do not increase short-term inflation. Really interesting. I reviewed this with Dr. Matt Will, economist, University of Indianapolis, and there are some flaws in this. in terms of they only use one data point. This is not something that's been reviewed. This is not a final paper by any stretch. But the conversation here that you're taking tariffs off of cocoa, of coffee, of meat, of beef, and, it's going to lower prices, well, it means tariffs do indeed raise the prices. And now the question is, if you are somebody who's a cattle rancher in the United States, and now Argentinian beef has no tariff, do you now have to lower your costs? Now, you guys know, if you listen to my Cigar and Bourbon show, I work with a group out of Indiana called Defiance Beef. I order everything from them. You can use Eat, Drink, Smoke is my Cigar and Bourbon show. If you use that promo code, you'll get $150 off. I mention it because I'm a full disclosure kind of guy, defiancebeef.com. I don't know how they respond to this, and I'm a little concerned about that, except for the fact that tariffs are still taxes, and that's something that still needs to get addressed. So I'm happy for the removal. Yes, it's going to affect people in certain ways, but overall, hopefully, it means lower costs at a grocery store. I'm Tony Katz. It is absolutely true. No matter which way you twist and turn, somebody likes it, somebody doesn't. Overall, I'm not a fan of tariffs. I am a fan of defiancebeef.com. Those are the people. Incredible how good. So good. You go to defiancebeef.com, use promo code Eat, Drink, Smoke, and you are going to get $150 off your order. It's 21-day aged. It is unbelievable. I ordered a quarter cow. Next one is a full one. I'm doing it. Extra freezer, you got it. No problem. The ribeyes, the strips, the tenderloins, everything. Just so good, so tender. The flavor is off the charts. Fantastic. Defiancebeef.com. Use promo code Eat, Drink, Smoke. Get $150 off your order. Make your order right now. Comes individually, each steak frozen, the cube meat, the stew meat. You want soup bones, all of it is there. Because I ordered a quarter, so I got a 6-pound brisket out of mine. Fantastic stuff. So, defiancebeef.com. Use promo code Eat, Drink, Smoke, and you'll get $150 off your order. Here's what we got going on. And Tony's looking for somebody to go in on an order. Right there. I'm not bragging. I'm saying I'm getting the extra freezer. I'm not even shy about it. So the radio show is in break right now. So we're going to take the break. When we come back, what in the world's going on with redistricting in the state of Indiana, and why is Trump screaming at members here? Who got swatted? And the argument in favor. And the madness of those people saying, well, it's not popular here. You mean with Democrats? What does that matter? This is a conversation about power and some people who are very embarrassed of it. So keep it here, hang loose, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. All right, guys? Keep it here. So you telling me that Pat McAfee still has people giving him a hassle over interviewing Donald Trump? So Herb Street, who is Thursday night or Sunday night football and college football, he's become a major player in this, is defending like it's an interview. Leave him alone. Now people are going after him. Honestly, to hell with these people. I'm not even the biggest McAfee guy, but I supported what he did, and that was the commander-in-chief. It wasn't really a political conversation. He wasn't showing his politics there. I still don't know what McAfee's politics are. There's nothing wrong with interviewing the commander-in-chief on Veterans Day. Good Lord. Ridiculous. I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz today. This is an Arturo Fuente here. This is the signature series. Signature series. Hemingway's signature. Thank you, Tony. You should, at this stage, you should know what you're doing. Really do enjoy this cigar. I think it's a good one for the humidor. A few sticks, in case somebody needs a cigar. It's not overly expensive in my view, and it works in a lot of settings and situations. So smoke them if you got them. I do. We are going to get into this conversation about redistricting. And I'm going to share with you what's going on right here. Because President Trump has gotten involved, this has become a real ground zero. And Republicans here are not interested. The question is why? What is it about redistricting that has you so upset? And there are a lot of people with a lot of nonsense arguments about this concept. And I want to put some of those to bed. They are really, really failed arguments in my view. And some of these are held by colleagues, and some are held by others on the political right. I think they're wrong, and I think their viewpoint is all sorts of askew. So I want to get into that, and I will right now. The Dow is down 201, by the way. The Nasdaq is down 111. And the Trump team is starting to talk about what AI is doing to the economy, which is absolutely true. Absolutely true. Some of this is going to be innovation related in terms of layoffs, et cetera. Not necessarily Trump's fault, but he's going to take the hits for it, and they got to get out in front of this. Let's do some radio. I favor redistricting. And for some reason in the state of Indiana, this has become a major issue, and the president has now weighed in. I live in this state. I do a morning show in this state, the largest morning show in the state, I would say. So I will. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. This show is heard across the state. People have opinions. I'm one of those people. But I've heard a lot of opinions about redistricting that involve a tremendous amount of what can only be described as nonsense. Now, it's not that it's nonsense because I want to do it and somebody else doesn't. In the end, that's how people vote, right? Do you want something? Do you not want something? And so they're going to go to their elected officials and say, do this or don't do this. But I want to make the conversation clear that it isn't a fool's errand, and the arguments against are very much not in concert with any rational thought. This has been going on for a while, the push for redistricting. There are 9 congressional districts in Indiana. Republicans hold 7. So the question is, well, so you want to redistrict for the other 2. You want to redistrict because the Democratic Party has done so in California, is doing so in Maryland. Well, Tony, Texas did it first. Concede. Texas did it first. Texas engaged a legal process, a political process, to change districts and draw the lines for congressional districts, the congressional maps, that would give the party in power an advantage. That party is the Republican Party. Texans could then decide what they do about this. And in that conversation has come a conversation that's happening right here in Indiana, which is the idea of, well, if you draw the lines differently, you're disenfranchising these voters. No, you're not. That is a lie. So stop it. And I want you to call people liars who say such a thing. No one is disenfranchised. No one took away anybody's vote with a differently drawn line. Was any vote taken away with the lines drawn as they are? You might have in your district a more Democrat leaning or more Republican leaning, and you're the other way. Was your vote really taken away? Absolutely not. You still have your vote. No one was disenfranchised. It is a lie. So we should at least call it as such. The opportunity Texans have, if they don't like this redistricting, is they can vote out their local state legislator. That's the proper recourse in a political process. And I left it at that. Then California said, well, we're going to redistrict. Oh, so now it's about retribution. Well, if it's about retribution, holy hell, game on, kitten. Because in the retribution game, Democrats are very, very good at this, and Republicans are very, very bad at this. And part of the reason Republicans are very bad at this is because Republicans think that somehow there are rules that they are supposed to be playing by. They're fully aware that Democrats don't play by the rules. They are fully aware that the Democrats are understanders of power, are utilizers of power, and they don't apologize for power. And every single thing they do is to amass more power. And they don't care how they lie, how they scream, how they cajole, how they manipulate, how they BS. Nothing. They've shown you. Republicans are very concerned about how it looks. We're concerned about, well, is this the right thing to do? And then they kind of suck on their thumb and wet themselves and hold on to their whoopee and say, Mom, is it okay? Also, can I have ice cream? And you're like, are you Joe Biden? And they're like, I don't know. Is that what you want me to be? Because I'll be whatever you want me to be. Just please don't hurt me. That's the Republican Party. And what Trump has done is said you have to fight. Now, some people thought you have to fight like Trump, and that's not 100% true. You have to be willing to fight. And the most recent thing we saw about this is Republicans seeing Democrats screaming and yelling about the shutdown, and Republicans said, we voted for the continuing resolution. Vote for it. We can talk about the other things. Everyone should be amazed that Republicans in the shutdown didn't crack, because that's what everybody was expecting. That's what Democrats were expecting. They don't care whether they're in the majority or they're in the minority. They know how to wield power. They know how to apply pressure. And Republicans in the main throughout history have capitulated. They didn't on the shutdown. And man, there's a real learning lesson there. No one is disenfranchised by the changing of the drawing of the lines. This leads us to the idea of fairness. You take a look at your state right now, you take a look at how the lines are drawn, and you tell me what is fair about it. Go on, I'll wait. Fairness does not exist in the drawing of a congressional line. Fairness is the thing you tell your kid when you want them to share the Legos with the other kid, so everybody will stop complaining and you can go back to watching whatever it is you're doom scrolling on Facebook. That's what fairness is. Actually, that's not even fair. That's just bad parenting. Fairness does not come up in this conversation at all. Fairness was when everybody who is a legal citizen of the United States got a vote. And then they voted for elected leaders. And those leaders then were imbued with certain levels of power. And the question is, why don't you use it? And now what you're saying is because they won, they shouldn't be able to use it. Oh, no. Well, if they use it, it's not fair. Stop it. Fairness is a child's argument. It is not a factual argument. It is not even a decent argument. And it is an argument that the political right in Indiana and everywhere else should push to the side. Then I was told, well, the overwhelming amount of people in Indiana were called Hoosiers, by the way. Hoosiers don't want this. Some of those polls had a resounding 51% of people who were opposed. If you think that 51% is overwhelming, I don't think you understand what a poll looks like. And secondly, don't blame me, because Republicans have done a crap job of selling the story. Democrats will oppose everything Republicans do. So am I really supposed to pay attention to their part in this poll? What does that matter in a political process where the Republicans won the seats? It doesn't. Now, you might say specifically to your district, well, if this happens, I'm not going to get reelected because this many Republicans and independents have an issue. You could make that argument. That isn't the argument being made. The argument being made is it's somehow overwhelmingly, and no, it's not. No, it's not. It's a political process. Abortion in the state of Indiana is overwhelmingly not wanted. If Democrats had power, abortion would be legal up until the 3rd grade. Did I say anything that isn't true? The answer is of course not. We're having a conversation about power and the utilization thereof. One of the questions has been, is this all about Trump? Trump wanted the redistricting. Well, I think Trump did start this thing. And by the way, we should be clear that just because you redistrict doesn't mean it's going to work. It doesn't mean it's going to work. It's very possible that it doesn't work. Everything has a downside. Everything is a risk. I concur with that. So did Trump, was he the first person to say it? Yes. Does it make it wrong? No. And the follow-up to this is somehow this is really going to energize Democrats. That might be the most ridiculous argument I have ever heard. It isn't going to energize Democrats. Trump hate energizes Democrats. Not policy, Trump hate. Not economics, Trump hate. That's the whole thing. If Republicans don't redistrict, do you think Democrats are going to like you? Do you think they're going to vote for you? If you don't, in the state of Indiana, vote for redistricting, Republicans, do you think any Democrat's going to think, well, finally, he's not Hitler? You don't believe that, do you? You don't actually believe that you will be loved, do you? They might. And Republicans seem to be concerned about this idea that it will energize Democrats. Maybe you should be more concerned about energizing Republicans and independents and moderates and the people in your state. Economic success, lower taxes, expanding education to the trades. Put out your vision, execute on the vision, succeed, and show your success. Show your work and tell your story. You're so worried about making a move because the other guy's going to get angry. You're not making enough moves to show all the people in your state what a good job you're doing. And you sure as hell aren't selling it. You're not. You know it. I know it. We all know it. Let's not kid each other. That's the whole point of this. Let's not lie. You win by being bold and engaging policy that helps all the people of your state. So the idea that, well, we're not going to vote for this because what will energize Democrats is a weak response, is a childish response, is a fear-based response, and says to me, you shouldn't be a representative of my know-how. Finally, let's talk about the why. What is the value of redistricting? Tony, what is it that we win? We're playing on this federal level. I would argue that your state legislature has a responsibility to the nation. I oppose the direct election of senators. And if you know me at all, you know that I always have. The direct election of senators took place in 1913, the 17th Amendment to the United States Constitution. I have always opposed this. I'll read it, by the way. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, elected by the people thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. Senators used to be selected by the state legislature, therefore more responsive to the state, and not as responsive to the whims of the people. It was a purposeful decision by the founders that the representative, thus having more of them, they would therefore be closer to the people, closer to their needs, closer to their wants, and yes, more able to move and rise with the temperature that they're creating. They're hot about a subject, their representative's going to talk about it. The Senate, often referred to, I think kind of weirdly, as the cooling saucer, for the people who want to use that argument, was there to engage debate, the world's most deliberative body, not to be moved by the whims. Well, you have the direct election of senators, they're moved by whims. It was a mistake, and it took away states' rights. This is your right, and you have a national responsibility. You have a national responsibility to look at what's going on around the country, how other states are acting and reacting, and ensure, if anything, I don't know, survival. And you say to me, well, that's just a power grab. And now we come back to it. All politics is a power grab. Politics is power. Why are we pretending somehow it isn't? Democrats don't have an issue with power, and they don't care if you like it. They have said so. They want to pack the court. I've got candidates for office talking about it. I've got the former attorney general talking about it. They used the power to impeach Trump twice over nonsense. They couldn't even get the second impeachment right. They have no problem utilizing the power. A power grab. Kitten, all politics is a power grab. Let's grow up. Let's be people who are honest. Republicans in the state of Indiana, at least, they won. And they can use their power to engage a legal process. And if the voters have issue, the voters can respond in their local elections. I can think of nothing more conservative than that. Nothing more American than that. I believe we should redistrict. And I think the arguments against are absolute bunk. Childlike pablum. Unserious. Doesn't mean I'm going to win the fight. But I wanted to make sure I was clear about the position. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. Oh, Lordy, 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 Lordy. You know, sometimes, Fingers Malloy, who does the Cigar and Bourbon Show with me, is a fan of saying that everybody is terrible at their job. There's nothing like somebody being terrible at their job and then coming to me and saying, I'm terrible at my job and it's your fault. If I were you, I would start drinking heavily. That's the best advice I can give. Oh, there's Chuck Schumer. There's Chuck Schumer. Oh, is he touring a retirement home? What's he doing? He should be. He certainly should be. There we go. Let's play some Chuck. By the way, agree or disagree with me about the redistricting? I mean, I have no idea whether I'm going to win or lose this battle. Right now, it doesn't look good.
Just, I guess, a question that's out there. Why wouldn't they have been released the last 4 years when President Biden was in office?
Well, that's the question every American is asking. Not every American, but so many Americans are asking. What the hell is he hiding? Why doesn't he want them released? When you don't want something like that's released, when even a whole lot of Republicans are calling for the release, his own party members, people ask the question, what's he hiding?
Chuck Schumer. Hey, Tony Katz, how are you? Good to see you. Good. No, I don't want a cheeseburger. Please. I don't want to ruin my appetite. That wasn't the question, Chuck. The question was about Joe Biden not sharing anything in the Epstein file.
Just, I guess, a question that's out there. Why wouldn't they have been released the last 4 years when President Biden was in office?
Well, that's the question every American is asking. Not
Yes, that is the question that every American is asking.
every American, but so many Americans are asking.
Yes, so many Americans are asking, why didn't Biden release it? The question was clearly, why didn't Joe Biden release?
What the hell is he hiding? Why doesn't he want them released? When you don't want something like that's released, when even a whole lot of Republicans are calling for the release, his own party members, people ask the question, what's he hiding? It's got to be answered by releasing the files.
First, President Trump is now in favor of releasing the files. Secondly, glad he's finally there. Third, we've been in favor of releasing them since the beginning. Fourth, who in the world taught Chuck Schumer that he should hold up his fists like he's really where does this is not inspiring us to believe that you are strong. This is us looking at you saying, like you're saying to yourself, I know I left my keys somewhere. Where are my keys? It's an unseriousness that exists when they don't answer the basic questions. And you can argue that there are plenty of people of both political parties that don't answer questions. But now that it's out there, that we're going to release these things, are the Democrats going to sing a different tune? Is there a how do I want to ask this? What's the best way to ask this? How are Democrats going to spin this to say, well, you see what Trump's really doing? Again, I will say it. We have taken the subject of children being abused and we have politicized it. We took COVID, a virus, where we should have all been unified in figuring out what this is, how to deal with this, and how to live our lives normally. And we said, nope, let's make it political. Now we're going to do it with the abuse of children? Well, that's just ugly. Very, very ugly. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Good Lord. Everybody's being all sorts of special in the chat today. Let's see if I can find this guy. Nope, 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 nope. I cannot. So be it. Let's see if I can do this. Ooh, look at that. That's better. I can do it wide too. No, I'm going to do tall. I'm going to do that. Oh, that's better, right? Oh, that's, there we go. Wait, I can make it. What? Or should I keep it small? I'll keep it medium. I'll keep it there. Huh. Look at us. All right, what else do we got, kids? What else do we have to chat about? I've got the BBC lawsuit, which I think is interesting. Because I don't know how Trump collects. How in the world do you collect on a $5 billion lawsuit against the BBC, which is owned by the British people? I don't know how you do it. I don't think you can. I don't think you can collect at all. I've got a whole bunch of stuff to get to. There we go. That. I've got a bunch of stories to get to. I'll get to them all. I will get to them all. Let's see what we've got here. That's not it. Why can't it show me? That's all right. That is quite all right. So we're coming back to the show in a minute. We're coming back to the show in 30 seconds. Not a problem. I do have a bunch to get to. I don't think I want Britain as the 52nd state. I don't want Canada as the 51st state. I think that Britain has some serious work to do. And they have not shown themselves serious about wanting to do the work. So there's a series of stories for us to get to. starting with Mexico, where the Gen Z protesters got into a clash with police. Over 100 officers were hurt. They are calling for more enforcement to prevent organized crime and alleged government corruption. This after a assassination of a lawmaker. This is sadly way too standard for Mexico. They're targeting the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, criticizing her socialist political background and her handling of the cartel. So they don't want socialists. Interesting. Very, very, very interesting. They did enter the it's not a palace. It's presidential. I forget the name of the house. I forget the name of the building. And I haven't heard anybody say it's akin to January 6th yet. I'm a little shocked by this. But I think this is interesting because, not everything means everything to everyone in every nation the same way. So criticizing, as News Nation reports it, of her socialist political background. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that is supposed to signify. It needs a little more in-depth look. Then there's Trump suing the BBC for $5 billion. They did. They doctored the speech. They doctored his January 6th speech. And they took out the part where he said peacefully protest, which is a pretty big deal. He said that they expect to file a damages claim, and that would be between $1 and $5 billion. I have no idea how Donald Trump collects on this. How in the world do you get the nation to hand over $5 billion to you? The BBC did issue an apology. 2 people did indeed lose their jobs, but they did this. We are clear that we have seen organization after organization after organization do this. Deceptively edit. And you'll always note that when people say it's a mistake or that wasn't, we weren't trying to do that, it's always in the same direction. It's always against Trump. It's always against the political right. Always. Every time you see an issue, it's always in favor of this group and always opposed to this group. Always, 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 always. There comes a moment you realize that this is not some kind of bug. This is a feature. This is who they are. This is how they work, whether it's the United States or other places. If you are a progressive in these positions, you feel that you are somehow called to engage in absolute manipulation, and it is an absolute manipulation. And the manipulation is to keep going a falsehood. It is clear that the BBC does not care if they lie to the viewer. They want to lie to the viewer. They hate the viewer. And they want to only utilize the viewer to be able to accomplish their goal, their agenda, their desire, their want, not to actually engage news. News is the very last thing they're interested in. What they're interested in is agenda. The agenda at Wendy's, the fast food place with the square burgers and the potatoes. Really, I should have said the Frosties and the more Frosties. Frosty sounds good right now. Someone bring me a Frosty. I will chocolate, which is the classic. I would take vanilla. I like strawberry as ice cream. I don't think I would like it as a Frosty. And then they've got some other flavor things. I'm like, that's just not okay. So chocolate or vanilla, someone could just bring me a Frosty. That would be great. You know who you are and you know where I'm at. Thank you. Wendy's is going to close hundreds of stores. I do not look at this as a conversation about the Trump economy. Dun, dun, dun. As I was discussing with AI earlier, I think during one of the breaks, we've got a live stream going at YouTube, youtube.com/Tony Katz. You can be a part of that 5 days a week starting at noon. there are things that are going to happen in this economy that have nothing to do with President Trump and certainly aren't his fault. It's part of growth. And the AI acceleration and explosion is going to lead companies, I think falsely, to believe that people can be replaced with the help of AI. There's going to be a lot of early trust in AI, and as we already know, there have been trillions of dollars invested into artificial intelligence all over the place. Because they are doing so, they're going to then utilize these tools and say, how can we use this to lower corporate this or lower other employee that, lower costs, heighten the profits, etc. This is a serious issue for somebody who follows the America First mantra, because that's also a bit of I shouldn't say a bit, it's also a protectionist mantra. How do you protect American jobs that are now being replaced by AI when Americans are investing so much money into the AI? So people are going to shed jobs. We've seen this from Amazon. We've seen this from UPS, which also has to do with the post-COVID world, which also has to do with a bit of bloat. They could have just felt, we've got too many people here. We can do more with less. Why aren't we doing more with less? And so this AI world is going to mean a shedding of employees. And then Trump's economy is going to be like, look, he's losing all these jobs. You're not talking about the investment and the innovation side. It's not an honest conversation. And I think you need an honest conversation at all times. You need an honest conversation about what we're seeing. Wendy's, which is not really affected, you could argue, by the AI side, unless you're going to talk about kiosks taking the orders and not people. They're going to do a mid-single-digit percentage. So 4 to 6% is what they're going to close. So the approximate number of store closures is 241. I would say that of all of those fast food companies, one could argue that it's Wendy's that's the most stale. Not every company lasts forever. I'm not an anti-Wendy's guy. Again, someone bring me the Frosties. I'm saying that as a level of marketing, as a level of inside people's heads, McDonald's does a far better job. Chick-fil-A does a far better job. Burger King did a whole refresh. Wendy's could simply be in a place it's like, okay, we need to engage a level of reinvention. We've got fantastic social media, but now we have to have fantastic stores. You know, we forget that is a part of these things. It's not all just, well, who's to blame? Sometimes just time is to blame. The people of Staten Island are blaming the other 4 boroughs. So New York is 5 boroughs. There's Manhattan, there's Brooklyn, there's Queens, there's Bronx, known as the Bronx, and then there's Staten Island. Staten Island is famous for having landfills. Staten Island is also famous for being the most conservative borough. Did a lot of driving through Staten Island to get to Brooklyn to see Grandma Ethel back in the day. So one of the stories is that Staten Island lawmakers are taking a look into a secession bill, something that I think has been discussed before. And what they're saying is we have no interest at all in being with these people. They did have they did a vote back in history. It might have been like 100 years ago. They talked about this. They don't want to be a part of it. Manhattan and Brooklyn slap them around. They end up paying more taxes. They don't feel they get anything out of it. What's the point of all of this? It is just more example of people being unhappy with Mamdani's victory and what they believe may very well come. Now, this is happening in Oregon, where the eastern half of Oregon, they want to become part of something called Greater Idaho. And then there are a series of counties in Illinois that would like to be a part of Indiana. And in Indiana, they're like, yeah, sure, we can make this happen. But you need the state approval. You need Illinois' approval. No one's going to let these people go. Cook County, which is Chicago, is just going to continue to abuse these people. People forget that there was almost a state called Jefferson. This was Northern California and a little bit of Southern Oregon. And so there was this proposal for this state called Jefferson. And they were going to vote on this on December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor, and that ended the vote, and that ended the push. You know, the idea that we've got this map, and we've got these states, and they all have to stay this way, it's not true at all. But this is also a great example. I saw this came up. Was this Shapiro? Was discussing that, you know, if you can't afford to live in New York, maybe you got to move out of New York. And some people on the right were like, see, this is the problem. We need to make it more affordable for them. Some places are unaffordable. You move to where it's more affordable, and you then build your life there. This is standard. This is the way all migration has gone. The answer is I got to make it more affordable for people in New York. It's more affordable in Indiana. It's more affordable in Nebraska. It's more affordable in Louisiana. You don't want to live in those places? Sounds like your problem. So the people of Staten Island might have to say to themselves, bye, Felicia, and get out. But there's something romantic about this. They're not saying they want to leave the country. That's not. They're saying they want a better life, and those people can't give it. So let us have our independence. Let us go. I don't know. I don't think it's going to work. But I do like that people discuss it. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Guys, good to be here. Did I just read that right? You have 4 Wendy's in the town of Kokomo, Indiana? 4? It seems like a fair amount. Seems like a fair amount of Wendy's. Right there. All right, let's see what else we've got going on. Oh, well, do you want Sunny hosting? Yes or no? So, Nah, I shouldn't do that to you. I should not do that to you at all. It's just, that show's still on the air. Well, that's a weird headline. There it is. Now people are telling me which Wendy's is good and which Wendy's is bad. We seem to have gotten a bit off track. RateMyWendy's.com. Hi, I'm Tony Katz, and welcome to my new web series, Rate That Wendy's. On Rate That Wendy's, you tell me which Wendy's are good and which Wendy's suck. Oshkosh, Wisconsin, go right ahead. All of a sudden, I'm Larry King. So here's what's weird, right? Because we are doing the mobile chat as well as this. I can't see that chat. I don't think I can. Hold on, maybe I can. Maybe I could see who's gone totally crazy. Oh, the haters are haters, kids. It's the way it goes. You're gonna be in this business. Be prepared. Some people, they are a little bit kooky. Let me see if I can see it here. Hold on, can I get to it? Let me see. Let me see if I can do it this way. Oh, yeah, I can. I can totally get to it. I can do this, and I could do this, and I'll see if the comments are different. Oh, there's a lot of comments. Okay, I love it, guys. Glad you're here. Now you got to tell me why you're watching mobile instead of landscape or landscape instead of mobile. I want to know these things. All right, coming back to the show. Newsmax is reporting that Democrats want to push the housing crisis on President Trump in 2026. I swear to you, if there is not a better example of, do you want to solve problems or do you want power? I do not know what it is. Tony Katz today. So good to be here. So good to be with you. Dems to push housing crisis on Trump in 26. Shouldn't we want to end a housing crisis? Shouldn't we want to think of ways of engaging more affordable housing? Instead, Democrats want to see how they can get a political victory, not solve a problem. Solving problems is not what it's about. J.D. Vance said we've got to get our blue states to build enough houses for their citizens because the red states and the federal government are actually doing a really good job. Part of the problem is because I have stated before that part of the issue is what we have learned from all these remodeling shows. And people say, I'm a first-time home buyer. I can afford $150,000. And the house has to have granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. The house has to have a roof, maybe a door. It's a first home. You don't need all those things. You don't need them. Stop thinking that you have to have them. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're irrational. Well, I'm 2 years out of college. I need a brand new $60,000 car. No, you don't. No, you certainly do not. And yes, chat room, you do not need a 50-year mortgage. But as was explained to me by Fingers Malloy, who does Eat, Drink, Smoke with me, well, if builders build homes to be able to maximize, which I don't have a problem with, and the house is therefore a $500,000 house, how does somebody afford it when they're just starting out? So they do have an issue that is actually not of their making. That's a point. That is a solid, legitimate point. We also have a realization that younger generations see the housing differently, and they don't necessarily view home ownership as the end-all be-all. How do we fix an issue when we haven't perfectly defined what the issue is? If the issue is the cost, how do you lower the costs of building a home? If the issue is the cost in New York City, why are we paying attention? And then, are we engaging rationally with people about economics, their own economics, about what they can actually afford and how they can build towards something bigger and better? This is Tony Katz today. I just think that that's important. I think that's incredibly, incredibly important. I appreciate you guys being here so very much. Enjoy being with you. Enjoy getting to do the show with you. Enjoy that we're still working out this 2 streams thing, but so far so good. And I haven't seen the crazy chat yet. I see the same chat. I haven't seen crazy chat. But hey, if you're being crazy, stop it. I'm still not going to date you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Guys, you are appreciated. I am back tomorrow at noon. And don't forget to head on over to TonyKatz.com and subscribe. The show sheet will be up, and I look forward to sharing that with you. I'm glad you guys are here. Thank you. You make this all worthwhile. I mean, doing the radio show is pretty awesome, but this is developing nicely. It's because of you. I really do appreciate it. And I will catch you all tomorrow. Be good.